you've turned your pain into action. And you do everything you can to make sure that that will not happen.
Picture this. You're standing in front of your brand new dream house, the kind HGTV junkies would sell a kidney for. The cameras have gone home, the cheering neighbors are back to their normal lives, and the giant bus isn't there to block the cracks anymore. And that's when reality hits. The bills triple because someone thought an Olympic-sized pool was a human right. The drywall is already splitting like it's in a Marvel multiverse, and your kids are sleeping in a bedroom themed entirely around cup stacking, because apparently your fleeting childhood hobby was enough to justify a $300,000 construction budget.
Big machine after the other. Keep it coming.
Like a big boy's dream.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
This wasn't a makeover, it was a demolition derby on people's lives, broadcast every Sunday at 8 p.m. Extreme Makeover, Home Edition sold itself as the heartwarming cure for poverty, trauma, and just general sadness. A family has mold in the basement? Boom. Destroy the whole house Monster Jam style. Dad loses his job? Don't worry, Ty Pennington is here to scream good morning into a megaphone like the Kool-Aid Man of capitalism.
Good morning, Marshall family! Jay, Elena, kids, come around here!
And when the dust cleared, ABC would present America with the ultimate fantasy, that drywall and granite countertops could fix the crushing despair of late-stage capitalism. But underneath the inspirational montages and slow-mo hugs, the story was way darker. Families went bankrupt, houses fell apart, kids got kicked out, and some of the miracle builds ended with eviction notices taped to the very doors Ty had once dramatically unveiled. The thing is, none of this should have been surprising, because before Extreme Makeover was even building houses, it was building something else, human Frankensteins. Before Ty Pennington was screaming at suburbs with a megaphone, Extreme Makeover was a totally different kind of horror show. And no, I don't mean surprise your wallpaper is ugly. I mean, let's put you under the knife for 6 weeks and call it empowerment. The original Extreme Makeover premiered in 2002, and its pitch was simple. Find people who felt insecure about their looks, rip them away from their families, and subject them to a montage of plastic surgeries, dental overhauls, and boot camp style training until they barely recognized themselves.
We had people that thought that Micah was not as smart as they were. Truth is, Micah is above average in intelligence.
Then, bam. Parade them back to their loved ones in a grand reveal like a human iPhone unboxing. On paper, it was marketed as self-improvement. In practice, it was body horror dressed up as daytime television. Contestants described being isolated in pain and emotionally manipulated. One woman, Delise, even overheard producers pressuring her family to trash her appearance on camera for better TV. Imagine signing up for a confidence boost and ending up listening to your relatives call you Quasimodo for ratings. To make it worse, her makeover was canceled last minute, meaning all that humiliation came with zero payoff. Critics tore the show apart, accusing it of glorifying plastic surgery, normalizing body dysmorphia, and exploiting vulnerable people who just wanted to feel okay in their own skin. But here's the kicker. The show worked. It was controversial, risky, and exactly the kind of early 2000s chaos that networks loved. ABC didn't bury the formula. They just swapped the scalpel for a sledgehammer, because if you can convince America that chopping up faces is inspiring, imagine what you can do with bulldozers, violins, and a box of Sears gift cards. That's how we got Extreme Makeover, Home Edition. Poverty wasn't going to know what hit it, literally.
Just love. But imagine what this family could do with a home.
By 2003, ABC realized that slicing up strangers on national TV wasn't exactly winning hearts, so they slapped on a new label. Same recipe, fresh victims. Instead of fixing faces, they'd fix houses, and thus Extreme Makeover Home Edition was born. The concept was idiot-proof TV. Find a struggling family with the saddest possible backstory, ship them off on a free vacation, bulldoze their house like it's a monster truck rally, and rebuild it into a Disney-fied mansion in just 7 days.
Grumpy. Oh, I'm sorry, that's one of them. Oh, yeah, I hear you.
They're small, but they're working big.
Cue swelling violins, cue Ty Pennington in a hard hat pretending to measure things, and boom, you've got Sunday night ratings gold. And make no mistake, the show worked. Overnight, it turned from a 13-episode experiment into one of ABC's crown jewels. By season 3, it was pulling 15 million viewers an episode. Ty Pennington became America's loudest neighbor, a man so hyped on Red Bull and pure chaos that he made move that bus, feel like a national holiday. The formula was flawless on paper. Family cries, Ty yells, house explodes. Sears gets free advertising, big reveal, more crying, rinse and repeat. And for viewers at home, it felt like a moral cleanse. Sure, I screamed at a McDonald's worker today, but at least I watched a family get a new roof, so I'm basically a philanthropist. But here's the part nobody wanted to say out loud. The show wasn't really about charity. It was about spectacle. ABC wasn't in the business of fixing lives. They were in the business of building the most tear-jerking, ad-friendly demolition derby imaginable.
Oh,
Oh, man. Oh, this is beautiful.
Poverty wasn't just being solved, it was being repackaged with a granite countertop and a Home Depot sponsorship. And while the audience was still wiping tears off their Sears receipts, Ty was about to become the face and the megaphone of the whole empire. Every cult needs a leader. An Extreme Makeover, Home Edition had Ty Pennington, a man who looked like he'd just sprinted out of a Mountain Dew commercial.
Oh, watch this, guys.
Megaphone in hand, frosted tips glowing, and running purely on Red Bull and chaos, Ty wasn't just the host, he was the brand. Before all this, he was the hot carpenter from TLC's Trading Spaces, mostly known for wielding power tools while shirtless. ABC saw that and said, perfect, let's pump him full of caffeine. Suddenly, he was jolting families awake at 7 a.m. with his signature battle cry, "Good morning!" Entire neighborhoods were shaken out of bed like it was D-Day, sponsored by Sears. America ate it up. Ty became a household name, scored endorsement deals, and even launched his own product lines. He was the cool, manic handyman who could fix your deck and crash your PTA meeting with a bullhorn. Except he wasn't all that handy. At one point, someone asked him what OSB stood for, and he blinked so hard you could hear the drywall cracking. It's oriented strand board, not obviously shouting builder. Behind the scenes, the cracks were showing. Stories floated around about burnout, substance issues, and outbursts that made Ty feel less like a DIY guru and more like the Tasmanian devil in cargo shorts.
Almost exactly what he's dealing with now. He should be there for his best friend and his partner.
Daddy will be back.
But to ABC, that was the magic. Ty wasn't just part of the makeover, he was the makeover. The energy shot that kept the tears flowing, the glue holding the spectacle together. Problem was, when your entire show rests on one man's vocal cords and meme-worthy mania, the whole thing gets wobbly fast. For a show that promised forever homes, Extreme Makeover Home Edition sure had a habit of handing out booby traps. Because once the cameras left, so did the fairy tale. Families who thought they'd won the poverty lottery quickly realized they'd just inherited a financial black hole. The math was brutal. Bigger houses meant bigger bills. Families who'd been struggling to pay their old utilities were suddenly staring at tripled costs. Olympic-sized pools, movie theaters, and go-kart tracks don't exactly scream energy efficient. Within months, some families were behind on payments, foreclosure notices started rolling in, and the dream homes became debt collectors' playgrounds. And the houses themselves? Let's just say they weren't built to last. A foundation normally needs at least 2 weeks to cure, but ABC gave it about as much time as an Instagram story.
Completely remodel our house and give us this huge mansion.
It was an expensive house.
Crews were throwing together McMansions in 7 days flat, and it showed: leaking roofs, mold infestations, collapsing walls. One former crew member even admitted the drywall was cracking before the family had even moved in. Imagine coming home to your miracle house and realizing it's basically held together with staples and hope. When families begged the show for help, ABC shrugged. Because here's the kicker: legally, these weren't new houses. They were technically classified as renovations, which meant no one was on the hook for proper inspections. Translation: if your dream house is sinking into the mud, congrats, fix it yourself. After all, you got it for free. The whole thing revealed the central con of the series. It wasn't about giving families stability. It was about getting the most heart-wrenching footage in the shortest amount of time possible. And once the cameras stopped rolling, the producers didn't care if your kid's cup-themed bedroom turned into a mold terrarium. By now, viewers were starting to wonder, was this charity or was it just a demolition derby sponsored by Sears?
So good that all my hard work can be useful to someone else. I was just so overjoyed that...
Spoiler, things were about to get even messier. At some point, people stopped asking, how does this show change lives? And started asking, wait, who's actually benefiting here? Because once you peel back the emotional montages and Sears commercials, Extreme Makeover Home Edition looked less like a charity and more like a reality TV Ponzi scheme. First, the scams. The Fridays were pitched as the perfect American family. A struggling couple with 7 kids, 5 of them adopted siblings, plus their own nonprofit on the side. ABC swooped in, handed them a 9-bedroom mansion, thousands in Sears gift cards, and even a storefront for their charity. It was a feel-good fairy tale. Until reports surfaced that within a year, all 5 adopted kids were gone from the house, allegedly kicked out. Meanwhile, the parents were cruising around in a brand new Mercedes, courtesy of that sweet makeover spotlight. Nothing says family values like evicting your kids and upgrading your ride. And then there were the design disasters. The producers' obsession with making every build quirky often turned homes into theme park attractions nobody asked for. One kid mentioned he liked cup stacking. Normal response, cool, let's get you a shelf for trophies. Extreme Makeover response, great, let's build you a cup-themed bedroom, complete with cup blinds, a cup bed, and a shrine to Solo Brand. What happens when the kid wakes up one day and decides baseball is cooler? Too bad you're living in the world's tackiest museum forever. This wasn't about practicality. It was about ratings bait. Bigger gimmicks, flashier reveals, and the maximum number of tears squeezed out of both families and viewers.
That someone loves you more than himself. The love that he has for myself and for his children.
The so-called charity started to feel more like trauma porn wrapped in product placement. Sears wasn't saving lives. Sears was selling you a blender, and the audience was catching on. Online forums started asking whether the show was helping families or just exploiting them for ad revenue. Spoiler, you already know the answer. By 2010, the formula was cracking worse than the drywall. The inspirational montages weren't hitting the same. The sob stories felt recycled, and America was slowly realizing you can't bulldoze poverty with granite countertops. Ratings slid, ABC shoved the show into the dreaded Friday night graveyard slot, and by 2012, Extreme Makeover Home Edition was gone. But ABC wasn't about to let the franchise die quietly. Instead, they Frankensteined it into new transformations. Enter Extreme Makeover, Weight Loss Edition.
One person, 1 year, one amazing transformation.
AKA, let's point a camera at obese people and scream at them to run. It was the same manipulation, just with treadmills instead of 2x4s. Trainers berated contestants on camera. Inspirational edits tried to sell suffering as progress, and viewers got their weekly dose of humiliation disguised as motivation. If the original show was emotional demolition, this was physical demolition. By the mid-2000s, transformation shows in general were tanking. The home improvement craze shifted to cheaper, slower-paced formats like Hoarders or HGTV comfort food. Viewers didn't want Ty Pennington's Red Bull energy anymore. They wanted Marie Kondo whispering about folding shirts. So in 2020, HGTV tried a reboot. The houses were smaller, the builds more realistic, and Ty was replaced by a calmer host. Translation, it was less exploitative, but also kind of boring. Without the chaos, it just felt like Property Brothers with extra hugs. And then, of course, COVID hit. A show built on giant community build events couldn't survive a year when no one was allowed within 6 feet of each other. It died after just 10 episodes. Fast forward to 2024, and ABC announced yet another reboot, like an ex who just doesn't get the hint. This time, the houses were more practical, neighborhoods pre-built, and the spectacle toned down. Which sounds good, except viewers were furious. Some complained the families didn't even seem needy. Others whined it lacked the over-the-top flair.
We all admire Ben for his quirky nature and inventiveness. We'll put a little Ben Franklin in Joey's room.
Because here's the paradox. The more ethical the show gets, the less entertaining it is. By this point, it was obvious. Extreme Makeover couldn't decide if it wanted to be a charity or a circus, so it kept failing at both. In the end, Extreme Makeover was never about helping people. It was about turning trauma into ratings and poverty into a demolition derby sponsored by Sears. It promised salvation, but delivered cracked walls, foreclosures, and cup-themed nightmares. Families who could barely pay old bills were suddenly drowning in Olympic pool utility costs. Some lost their homes entirely. And Ty Pennington, he screamed good morning while the fine print whispered good luck. The show kept reinventing itself, slicing faces, bulldozing homes, forcing people onto treadmills, hoping nostalgia would outshine the lawsuits. But here's the truth. Charity doesn't make good TV. Not real charity anyway. You can't fix poverty with granite countertops. You can only package it, sell it, and pray people cry hard enough to forget the rest. So next time you hear, move that bus, just remember what they were really moving, the line between help and exploitation. And hey, if you survive this demolition derby of a video, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell, or Ty Pennington might show up outside your house with a megaphone at 7 a.m.